Hi, my name is Kestutis Takela. I'm going to introduce to you Equilibrium's main menu, as well as point out some tricks we have implemented into the game to enhance players' experience. Just before choice of this sides between chaos and order, you have briefly saw Equilibrium's splash screen. During that splash screen, as well as during each fade in and fade out, the game is actually loading some resources. The trick here is not only to load resources for the next screen, but also to load some resources in advance. So when player actually reaches the actual gameplay, I'll show you briefly here. An actual gameplay would be if I press play button here. So we load all resources required to reach this stage, as well as some resources required for the actual gameplay. So this in effect will minimize the loading time required to reach the actual gameplay, and thus enhancing the player's experience. Going back into side choice screen between chaos and order, please notice that initial buttons are not moving, like so. Chaos and order buttons appear and they are stationary initially, and then they start slowly moving in a fluent motion. So this movement is actually designed to encourage player to make a choice, as well as this movement is exactly opposite for each side. So when order is moving downwards, chaos is moving upwards. So to give a message to the player that those sides are actually opposite in their meaning. And after the players make the choice of either chaos and order, we see fade-ins and fade-outs. And those fade-ins and fade-outs are actually different between chaos and order. If you notice, fade-ins and fade-outs for order are into white color, and fade-ins and fade-outs for the chaos are into black color. This is again to enhance the difference between chaos and order. It's quite easy to notice that we have very different graphics for the actual main menus. So it's very light in colors, very up in mood for order, both musics and graphics, background buttons. And for the chaos side, it's dark and very serious mood, like we're preparing for battle kind of mood. Also it's more like night evening colors, as well as very bright button colors. If you notice Order's main menu, as well as all menus in the main menu appear not instantaneously, but actually all buttons are animated. So for example, here in the actual main menu we have 6 components flying into the screen space. We have 4 buttons here, this semi-transparent panel over here, and the back button over here. So each component flies into the screen space at different speed. Those 4 buttons fly in almost at identical speed, but slightly different speed, to express that they are related by their meaning. And they together, those 4 buttons have different speed than this back button. This is to transfer a message that these buttons have different meaning than this back button. Obviously, alignment on the screen that these buttons are on the right side and this back button is on the lower left side is actually also to enhance the difference between the buttons. Next, if you would notice, all the buttons have a slightly different color. The lower the button is to the lower edge of the screen, the lighter color is of the button. This is really subtle color trick, is to enhance the difference between the buttons, and that each button is actually unique. Next, the choice of the map screen for the order is maps are perfectly rectangular in shape. On order, I'll show you next, they have actually different shape. Also the maps, the wording on order side it's called maps, while on chaos side it's called territory. And for the difficulty on order side it's called ambition, and on chaos side it's called resistance. Notice also that buttons here, player basically will have to make a choice between difficulties, and there's not a single difficulty highlighted by default. And to play the actual game, player have to make a choice, and only then player is allowed to play the game. Obviously, player is still allowed to change their mind and choose different difficulty if they choose to do so. And lastly, I'll show you how it is on the chaos side. If you can notice buttons are no longer perfectly horizontally aligned, they're actually rotated at slightly different angles. Also they have more spiky shapes in comparison with the smooth order side. And as I mentioned previously, it's no longer called maps, it's a territory, and map shapes are not perfectly rectangular, it's more like paper or scroll-like material to express chaos difference. And the difficult choice of resistance, it's different and spiky kind of buttons with spiky circular shaped buttons for starting the actual game. Main menu itself wording is also different. It's Academy for the order and it's Onslaught for the chaos. It's Quick Duel for the order and it's Quick Clash for the chaos. And that button is definitely my favorite for the chaos side, the suicide button. It's actually for the quitting the game. And that's pretty much it. We have different graphics, different music, and in some places different audio effects for both sides. We really care about making different feeling for either chaos or order. Even though we are just in the main menu, just before starting the actual game, we want player to have a different mood, different feeling, and this feeling is even further enhanced in the actual gameplay, in the actual strategies of the game. We really care about how players feel in our game, because feeling is actually the most important thing we have in our games. I really hope that players are going to appreciate the quality we are delivering to them, and I hope that you have learned a trick or two watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, goodbye.